guys, it's Nina Nandagopal at almostpractical.com, and today I am going to show you how to use this little gadget that I just discovered myself to create your own binding tape using bias strips that you've cut out and sewn together. I'm actually making a border for this dish towel, so I am going to switch the camera angle and show you how this little thing works, and it's pretty amazing. So stick with me here. Okay, so here we are looking down at the ironing board, and I'm going to just quickly turn on the iron. And this is the little binding bias tape maker. And this is the bias material that I had cut out. And if you don't know how to make your own bias strips, I haven't done a tutorial yet, but I might do one. In the meantime, you might want to check out Creative Bug, which has a lot of great classes about how to do different crafts. I love it. I learned a lot there. So I'll link that up in the comments below. But this is how this bias tape maker works. So what you need to do is you need to take the, put the right side of your bias tape down, and you put the smooth side of the bias tape maker down. And you want to feed your bias tape or your bias strips into this kind of opening. There's just a little slot around the edges, and simply do it like that. And it might be a little hard to get it to go through initially, so what you need to do is either push it through with a little pin if you have one. You can see my end is poking out here, but if yours doesn't poke out, you can use just a standard pin and just help push your fabric through a little bit so that you can grab the end. And look what happens when you do that. As it comes out of this end, the narrow end, it starts to fold into like a typical bias strip. So, so it's ready for you to use as a bias. Now you want to make sure all the edges are kind of not folded over, and I'm having a little issue here with that. So let's get that to come out better. There we go. So you need to have your iron handy, because as this feeds out, you want to iron it down to get the creases in this so that it stays. Okay, so what you want to do is take a piece of tape and just tape down the end of your bias, end of the bias tape that's feeding out of the bias maker. And it's probably going to go off screen for you here, but I'm just going to tape it right down to the ironing board. I just want to have enough space to do the ironing. So then you just take your iron and you start to, I bet that's off screen for you too. So you slide this bias tape maker down a few inches, and you press your bias tape down so that you get your creases. And you want to just be really careful that they're even and nice. And you just keep going. You slide and press, slide and press. And then when you're done, and I'll skip to that, you don't need to see me iron this whole piece of bias tape, but when you're done, you'll fold it back, you'll fold it in half again, and put another crease in it. So I'm going to go through and I am going to finish ironing this big piece bias tape, and then I am going to show you what I do to iron it in half, and then it'll be good to go. So I hope you think, I hope you see the usefulness in this, because I think it's pretty cool instead of having to kind of eyeball and try to get the sides even without it. So I'll be back to show you this, how I fold it over when I've finished ironing. All right, so I'm back. I have finished using this bias tape maker, and I've gone down the whole length of my bias strip and pressed it. I just wanted to show you some of the challenging areas are where the seams meet. And I put my seam on a diagonal and pressed it open and cut off sort of the little dog ears before I fed it through the bias maker. They still want to pop open, so just go slow and do your best. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the fabric that I used, I had pre-washed and dried and pressed before I made the bias tape. So just a couple things I wanted to point out. Okay, so now the next step, once you've fed the whole thing through, is to fold it in half again, carefully there, and match up the edges and just press it closed so that you have the bias tape ready to put on the edge of your project. So I'm going to now press that whole thing, and you don't have to watch me do that either, so I will be back. All right, I'm back, and my bias tape is now finished. I've pressed the whole thing down the length, and it is ready to go. I used this bias maker. This is a 1 inch, by the way. It's a 1 inch. They come in different sizes, so you can make different size bindings, but the 1 inch, you actually feed a 2 inch piece of fabric through the wide end, and it comes out into a 1 inch piece of bias tape. And of course, when you fold it in half, that's a 1/2 inch. So you have a 1/2 inch fold here, a 1/2 inch fold here, and a 1 inch in the middle, and you fold it in half and you have 1/2 inch. So when I add it to my dishcloth that I'm going to put this pretty border on, it will end up looking, I'll sandwich this piece of fabric in here, and I probably will do another video on how I did that and how I attach it. And it will look like that, so it'll be really nice and pretty. So again, if you, this is Nina at almostpractical.com. I would love, love, love it if you would hit the subscribe button in the lower left-hand corner. And you can also hit the bell and get notifications whenever I put out a new video. I'm hoping that this tutorial helped you out. This is a really cool little gadget, and I'll put a link in the description below to my post where you can find out where to get one of these. So thank you so much for watching. It's Nina Nandagopal at almostpractical.com.